In August 1952, a team of explorers entered the Pierre Saint Martin Cave in the French Pyrenees. Among them was Marcel Loubens, a 29-year-old engineer in Cave. He was young, strong, and passionate about exploration. But within hours, his story would be remembered as the fall that shocked the caving world. Pierre Saint Martin was no ordinary cave. It was one of the deepest in France. A massive vertical shaft, dropping more than 300 meters straight down. Imagine standing at the edge of a skyscraper and looking down. Now picture lowering yourself into that abyss with only ropes, a cable, and courage. In the 1950s, caving was far more dangerous than it is today. The gear was simple, the ropes were heavy, the safety systems were crude. Every descent was a gamble. And yet, for Marcel and his team, the challenge was irresistible. On that day, the explorers prepared to descend the shaft. At the surface, they had set up a large drum with a steel cable wound around it. Men turned it by hand, slowly lowering each cave into the darkness. A wooden chair was clipped to the cable. One man at a time was lowered into the black void below. It was a mix of bravery and blind trust. Marcel stepped forward. He sat in the chair, clipped himself in, and gave the signal. The cable tightened. Slowly, he began to sink into the dark. The walls of the shaft disappeared around him. The daylight above grew smaller and smaller. His teammates watched, tiny figures against the vast opening, until he was almost gone. And then it happened. The cable snapped. In an instant, Marcel dropped into free fall. The chair buckled. The sound of the break echoed through the shaft like a gunshot. His teammates screamed from above, helpless to stop him. Marcel fell nearly 15 meters before he hit a ledge. The impact was brutal. His body smashed against the rock. Bones broke. His back shattered. He lay twisted on the stone shelf, crying out in agony. Can you imagine the terror of that moment? Hearing the cable snap, feeling the air rush past you, knowing there is nothing beneath you but darkness and stone. His teammates were horrified. They scrambled to reach him. But Pierre Saint Martin was not a place you could move quickly. Every descent took hours, and now they had to lower men down carefully, one by one, to get to Marcel. When they finally reached him, the scene was devastating. Marcel was alive, but barely. He was conscious, his voice weak, his body broken. The ledge where he had landed was small, barely enough to support him and his rescuers. Above him loomed the black shaft. Below him, hundreds of meters of nothing. The rescuers tried to comfort him. They gave him water. They checked his injuries. But they knew the truth. He needed to be lifted back to the surface. And the very cable that was supposed to do that had already failed. The hours dragged on. Marcel lay in agony, whispering to his friends. He asked about the others. He spoke of his family. He tried to stay calm, but the pain was overwhelming. His teammates did everything they could, but options were few. Meanwhile, on the surface, more rescuers gathered. News spread quickly. A man trapped deep inside one of the deepest caves in France. The world of caving was watching, but the shaft was so difficult and the system so weak that no one knew how to get him out. The team considered building a new setup. They worked tirelessly, testing ropes, pulleys, and anchors, but the terrain was merciless. Every attempt was slowed by the danger of falling rock, tight spaces, and the sheer depth of the cave. Can you picture it? Your friend lying broken on a ledge. Every hour that passes, his voice weaker, and all you can do is sit in the dark, waiting, hoping, failing. Marcel fought for almost 2 days. He clung to life, surrounded by his friends, deep inside the mountain. But the injuries were too severe. Slowly, his strength faded. His breathing slowed. His words grew faint. And finally, he slipped away. The rescuers were crushed. They had watched their teammates suffer and die, powerless to save him. Some wept in the darkness. Others sat in silence, broken by exhaustion and grief. When they finally returned to the surface, they carried with them the weight of failure. Marcel's body was left in Pierre Saint Martin. The shaft that had nearly killed them all was too dangerous to climb with his remains. It became his tomb. The tragedy shocked the caving world. An ambitious exploration had turned into disaster. The story of Marcel Loubens spread far beyond France. He became a symbol of both the courage and the danger of extreme exploration. Later, stronger ropes were made, better systems were built, safety rules were written that are still used today. But they came at a terrible cost, the cost of one man's life. Pierre Saint Martin remains one of the most infamous caves in Europe, a place where stone, gravity, and human ambition collided. Marcel went in as an explorer. He never came out.